Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Do you like the shirt? Check it out. Yes, if you want one like this, the link is in the description below. And that's enough product placement for now. Okay, I've noticed recently that the videos that I'm putting up, the ones where I'm just sat here having a chat with you, these seem to be the ones that get the most views. I'm not going to kind of stop doing the tuition and the product review videos because I enjoy doing those and they get, enough views. But the ones that, where I'm just sat here blethering away at the camera, they seem to be the ones that you guys like the most and get the most views. So that's what today is all about. And before we get into it, I'll just preface this by saying that I started teaching the guitar in 1991, so that's essentially the best part of 30 years, and in all that time, the overwhelming majority of people that I've taught have been absolutely delightful to work with. Hard-working, diligent students who are keen to learn, love to practice and take on board what I'm saying. And recently I was contacted by, itchy nose, I was contacted by one of my students who I teach via Skype. He lives right at the other end of the country. And he said, do you think I've got what it takes to do a few guitar lessons? I said, well, yeah, actually. I said, you've got a nice touch on the instrument, you understand what you're doing, and you're a good communicator. So, that's what it takes. So, Rob, if you're watching, this one's for you. The thing you do have to beware of, though, and anyone who's ever done any form of private tuition, I suspect will recognise this, is that there are a very, very small minority of students that you will encounter, like the ones I'm going to mention today.
Dad, the rock star.
Okay, this is typified by the type of chap who is middle-aged, empty nester, kids have flown the coop, he's got a bit of money in his back pocket and some free time on his hands, and he wants to learn to play the electric guitar like he would have liked to have done when he was a teenager but never got round to it. And this is, I promise you, this and all of the other tales I will recant today are all true stories. This one guy, his favourite band were The Darkness. So that kind of gives you an idea of the time scale of this, how it was about 10, 12 years ago. And in the phone call where he'd booked the lesson, he said, shall I bring my guitar and me amp? I said, yes, okay. And I'm expecting, like a Squire Strat and a Line 6 Spider or something. And he turns up and he's got, on my doorstep, I open the door and, stood outside is a guy with a Gibson Les Paul Custom in white, just like Justin from The Darkness, a Marshall JCM 800 head and a 4x12 cab. And we lug all of this gear into the little tuition room where I'm teaching, and crank the Marshall up to almost 1 on the volume control before it starts getting too loud. And then we proceed to go through how to play an A chord and how to change to a D chord, really kind of beginner first lesson stuff. And he's been out and bought a Gibson Les Paul and a Marshall stack to do this with, and can't understand why he doesn't sound like his guitar hero. So yeah, midlife crisis, really, isn't it? If it hadn't been a Gibson Les Paul and a Marshall stack, it would have been a Harley Davidson or a set of golf bats or something. So that is the one type of guy that you've got to basically have a little bit of a word with about his equipment choice. Next.
I know best.
Okay, yes, the bedroom rock god. This is usually a young chap, and it usually is a chap, and he'll be, let's say he's older than 12 but younger than 20, so that there's a word for that age group, isn't there? And like most people of that age group, he knows everything. He's an expert on everything in the world, obviously, because he knows it all, apparently. And like the first thing I usually do in a guitar lesson is I'll say to someone, okay, Play me something that you're good at, because, it's a confidence builder, isn't it? If you can impress your guitar teacher in the first lesson, it kind of gets you off to a good start. And he launches into a pretty good sounding, not perfect almost, version of The Trooper by Iron Maiden. And it sounds good, but then I look at his hands and it looks odd for some reason. It looks wrong. And I think, well, I'll have a go of his guitar after he's finished. And it turns out what he's done is he's learned to tune the guitar from the internet. And you know how a guitar is E, A, D, G, B, E, low to high. Well, he's got that kind of arse-about face, and he's going E, B, G, D, A, E, low to high. And somehow or other, from tabs, according to him, he's managed to learn how to play The Trooper. But he gets stuck at a certain point in the song. Really? Who'd have thunk it? I said, the reason you're getting stuck is because your guitar's tuned wrong. No, it isn't. I said, well, actually, yes, it is. No, it isn't. I learned it off the internet, so obviously he's right and I'm wrong. What do I know? I said, well, you're really going to struggle to continue with your guitar tune like this. No, I won't. I said, well, okay, play me some chords, and let's hear you. I've heard you play some lead. Play me some chords. I can't play chords. Don't want to play chords. Well, you do realise that you're going to need to. No, I want to be in a band. I want to be lead guitarist. I said, well, yes, but what's the lead guitarist doing when the guitar solo isn't happening? Well, I just want to be a lead guitar. I'm not playing chords, And obviously he knew better than me, and he's going to be a rock star. Good luck.
Lazy little toe rag.
Yes, this is a type of student who, in this day and age, I suppose we have to call them parentally indulged and motivationally challenged. Or I would prefer to just say spoiled and lazy. There've been a few of these. Not that many, thankfully, but, one in particular sticks in my mind, where he would just kind of stare out of the window as I'm kind of going through stuff with him in the lesson. He would always turn up without the lesson notes from the previous time, hadn't practiced. I would ask him to play the simplest of things, and he would have a go, fair credit to him, but as soon as he got to any kind of chord change that he couldn't immediately do, the hands would come away from the guitar, shoulders would slump. Don't want to do it. Again, basically bone idle, lazy, and, why is he still coming for lessons then? Well, it's because Daddy has bought him a USA Strat and insists that he continues going for the lessons. He's not had time to practice, but apparently he has had time to rack up a winning score on the Playbox X-Station cretin machine thing that takes up most of his time. In the end, I just usually tell people like that, perhaps they need to rethink their commitment to playing the guitar. Go away and have a little break, and then see if you want to come back to it, which is kind of a polite way of saying it, but yeah, there you go. Next.
Last minute cancellers.
Okay, anyone who is self-employed will recognise this category of customer, the last minute canceller. Now, everyone has things that crop up in their lives that, mean that you've got to alter your plans on the hoof, and sometimes that means that you inconvenience people unintentionally. I get it. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are the people who habitually 3, 4, 5, sometimes more times than that in a row text you. Usually it's never a phone call these days, it's always a text to let you know that they can't make it for their lesson this week because something unforeseen has come up, like, I don't know, like it's their child's birthday, or like they've just realised an hour before the lesson that they haven't had chance to pick up the guitar in the past 2 weeks, and therefore there's no point in them coming for the lesson. Or another one was, I got my new shift rota last week and I'm not going to be able to make it today. Right. Guys, if you know 24 hours in advance, let me know 24 hours in advance. That way I can let somebody else fill that slot and not be out of pocket. And I'm sorry, but saying, oh, well, you should have known that I wouldn't have been able to make it because I've told everybody in the world what I'm up to on Twittergram and Bookface. No, I'm sorry. Pick up the phone, let me know. It's called having some manners.
The Dreamer.
And the final category, the Dreamer. This is a bit unique, really, because it's the only category that has a celebrity endorsee. Not one of my students, you'll understand. A few years ago on the BBC, there was a series of shows where celebrities took up a musical instrument, and the one that springs to mind is Bill Oddie. Now, if you don't know who Bill Oddie is, he used to be a comedian in the 70s. He was part of a comedy show called The Goodies, which was a bit like a cut-price bargain basement version of Monty Python. I used to like it, but then again, I was only 10 years old, and I suspect that, it's probably a good job that I haven't seen any episodes of it since. But since then, he's gone on to be just the sort of general TV presenter. Usually presents wildlife type shows on the BBC, and he wanted to play the guitar. And as soon as I saw him go into his first guitar lesson, I thought, I've taught people like you. They've never picked up a musical instrument in their life, but they've got every epic guitar solo, these wonderful masterpieces, these virtuoso pieces, all mapped out in their head. And apparently my job then is quite simple. All I've got to do is show them where to put their fingers in order to realise this masterwork, this epic that resides purely in their own brain. The first part of the lesson usually consists of them doing some air guitar whilst, and I use the term loosely, singing these guitar solos that I'm supposed to kind of, enable them to play. Usually, reality does hit with something of a crash, a bang and a wallop in these cases. It certainly did with Bill Oddie in that TV show. He spat his dummy out and started chucking the toys out of the pram in pretty short order when this poor woman who was trying to teach him the guitar explained, well, it doesn't quite work like that. You've got to kind of learn these things called chords and learn to change between them and strum rhythms, and then we'll go through some scales. And he wasn't having any of that. And it was the same in one particular case with me. I had one of these guys fairly recently who turned up for his second lesson after I'd kind of had the pep talk with him in the first session. Turned up for his second lesson having said, I didn't practice any of what you showed me. It's effing boring. I'm not doing that. I said, well, if you want to learn, you're going to have to kind of, if it was as easy as just kind of what you think it is, then everybody would be doing it, and it's not going to work like that. And he just basically started getting abusive and calling me all kinds of naughty words, and I ended up throwing him out the house. Not physically, but I told him that I wasn't going to be spoken to like that, and leave now, please. And he did, and then he proceeded to troll me on this channel for several days after that until I blocked him. But yeah, these are the kind of people that you will meet as a guitar teacher. And that one is, thankfully, I've had like 2 or 3 of those over the years, and the reaction is always the same. They think that because they can play Sweet Child of Mine on some Guitar Hero PlayStation thing, that that's going to just be a small trifling matter to translate that onto the real instrument. Nah. Reality's a bitch, isn't it? Anyway, there you go. A few cautionary tales if you are thinking of earning a crust as a guitar teacher. Watch out for these characters. They do get everywhere, but thankfully, as I said at the beginning of this video, they are few and far between, and do your best to avoid them. And finally, I will just mention, as I always do here, that as well as t-shirts, which are on sale in the link below. There's a few mugs and things and just other bits and pieces of stuff you can buy. Basically exit via the gift shop, as they say. I also have courses on sale. I'm sure you know what they are by now, but there's a course on playing modes for lead guitar. There's a course on like beginning your first steps as a lead guitarist, and there's one a little bit more of an advanced blues guitar course that it's aimed at the kind of blues guitarist who wants to step beyond the pentatonic scale. The link is on screen at the moment, and it's also in the description box below, along with the merch store link. So check them out, and there you go. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've found it as entertaining to watch as it's been for me to do. And if you've enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button, notification bell, give me a like while you're at it. Thanks for your time, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now, folks.